Hello and welcome to our third episode of this new podcast, which name I'm not 100% sure of. It's still in the working. But today we have someone very, very special with us, Amit Goldenberg, who is someone that I have looked up to and learned a lot from for several years now. And I'm really excited to have you here today. So thank you so much for accepting the invitation and for making the time to be here.
Thank you for having me and for the kind words.
Thanks. So I don't want to say too much about you because it won't do justice in any way. But when I was preparing for this, I was thinking, what are the most important things that I want to say about a person? I started running through how you've been a part of shaping the entire startup nation the last several years as a VC at Entree Capital and investing in incredible businesses. But then I thought, wait, look at what the guy did before then. In your actual profession, you are building business development, doing partnerships at the most pivotal time for amazing companies, be it Monday, be it Genesys. But then I thought, okay, you know what I'm going to start with? I'm going to start with how we met. As a first-time founder, it can be really awkward and scary to approach investors. And over 500 days ago, I clicked on a link on your LinkedIn page. You had 20 minutes or something like that to help founders.
Mm-hmm.
Was that? I don't know how long you've had it there.
30 minutes and
30
it's
minutes.
been here for years.
Been there for years. And I was stalking your profile and I thought, click on it, just meet the guy. So I clicked on it and I met you. And I think that was about 2 days before the 7th of October, 2023, when our world changed. And if I wouldn't have had that conversation with you, I probably would no longer be the founder of Zugat, CEO of Zugat. I probably would have thrown it all in and said, now's not the time to start a company. But I had this fresh perspective from an investor, from someone who's entrepreneurial themselves, for someone who's been there as a business growth mechanism, whatever we want to call it. And it really gave me so much. So that's the first and most important thing that I would tell about you, is how you made yourself so approachable and how you made the time talking with you so valuable. So, anyways, not to start too much, but I did want that to be how I pitch you today. But now you go for it and tell us a little bit about who you are and why I'm so excited to have you here and what is it that you would want to share about yourself.
So I'm a father of two. I'm married to Miri, my wife. I'm kind of talking about my career. It started off in the early 2000s. I do have hair, which is deceiving on my age, so people think that I'm younger than I am. I would not disclose that, but people can look at LinkedIn and figure that out themselves.
You might have people pull it to check if it's real, but there we go.
It's real, that's fine. I'm lucky in that perspective. So in the first few years, I kind of worked in the contact center space. The telco space was kind of the high tech back then. If you were really in tech was not as accessible as it is today. So I worked at Pelephone and then at AES and kind of moved in this world of doing something in between sales and product, kind of back then. Then I started my own company. I wanted to be, I think like any entrepreneur, I wanted to make more money. I was thinking, well, I'm going to start my own company. It's going to be easy. I know how much people pay for my consultancy enterprises. Can make a bunch of money. And then you realize that you need to sell yourself and do marketing, and nobody pays for these hours. Very challenging. So my hack was to find people that were willing to pay more for my time.
Mm-hmm.
Started with enterprises, then moved to SIs, system integrators. Those are the ones that deploy technology into enterprises.
Yep.
And then started to work with tech companies. Genesys was my first tech company that I've consulted and worked with. And then there was another one called Nuance, which I really changed everything in that perspective. We can discuss that later. Consulted through Nuance. I learned speech, text, language models, and OCR and stuff like that. Those technologies. Then I've started consulting startups. So I've met a lot of founders in the beginning, that did things around speech, Gong, Verbit, and later on Elios Health, um, and some enterprise customers. And then I said, enough. I want to join a company and kind of do something else. Joined Monday, 3 years there. And actually, we talked a lot about the VC, but VC was just the couple of last couple of years of my life. I am doing angel investment before and after Entree, but that's kind of the essence. So a lot of business growth, like partnerships, business development, sales, and product in my career. And now I've actually left Entree at the beginning of this year to pursue a new career of starting a new company, which will be a software company this time.
Amazing. Well, we're going to ask a lot of questions around all of this. And first of all, congratulations, because I meet a lot of investors who say that they wish that they would also just go off and do their own thing. They have all these insights and ideas, but they're in their comfort zone where they are doing their thing. So it's a very bold thing, of course, to be doing as well. I want to start off by asking something to do with that work that you were doing in Monday and in the other companies to do with the business development. Can you tell a bit about, first of all, what stage it was when you joined? The minute you say Monday, people think of this llama and unicorn, but it wasn't like that back then.
It wasn't that big back then, but it still was a sizable company. I think that it was just shy or over $100 million in ARR. And it was a small company. I was like, I think, employee 280 something. And it started to grow for more, I would say, customer facing or, business people. Monday is very product oriented. So this is when I joined Monday, and when I joined, they kind of, they had a small group of people that are doing partnerships in Monday. Mostly it was around channel partnerships, and they wanted to do something around strategic technology partnerships. They were exploring also academic partnership at that time, and then GSIs, global system integrators, that they wanted to reach out to. So I was kind of doing the tech partnership and product partnerships. So that's the stage that I did it, and yeah, so I think that's answer about the stage. In terms of partnership, we just mentioned a few. So a partnership between companies is a way to grow, right? So even us as people, you and I met in this opportunity that I provided, but the idea is that you give and sometimes you get back, and you just give, and that's fine between people. Organizations have KPIs, and they want to meet those KPIs. And for example, we are sitting at Google for startups, and we say, well, why? Why does a company that is profitable and profit is, the main KPI, have this campus and have these facilities at entrepreneur disposal? So I think that it's kind of understanding the whys and finding a mutual KPI that you can work towards. And then if those KPI meet, then there is a room for growth. So this is how I look at partnerships.
I love how you're picturing that. I was actually in a meeting with a commissions team this week in a very large cyber company. I never imagined that that's where this would be leading to, but essentially what they were using our consulting services kind of at the beginning to get was they're trying to understand how much more should they be putting into these relationships with partners, and what is the ROI that they should be getting now, because they're feeling like, where's the ROI? But maybe that's okay. Maybe it's not okay. What should I be expecting? So the expectations is also something that I think people struggle to handle. Was there something in the mindset at Monday when you joined to already build those partnerships that was clear that they were going to just go all in and really build an ecosystem and do this kind of Google podcast move to give and to offer value?
So I think unlike sales or direct sales, right, or in Monday case PLG, when you go and find the customer directly, I think that with partnership, it's you kind of Some would say throw spaghetti on a wall and see what sticks, but I'm like, I think you should be more intentional. So you can test a lot of things, but the bottom line is to start with a KPI. What are we trying to achieve? And can we achieve it using those partners, right? So, for example, in every company that I worked before Monday, partners were expected to bring leads in, right? I'm signing up a partner in Germany. I'm expecting it to do the sales, bring the leads in. We are providing the software. We'll be providing. That was the expectation. Monday actually provided leads to partners, which was for me kind of, and not just a few, a pipeline of leads. So you're like, okay, that's different. So what's the expectation of from a partner? So that was kind of in the channel point of view. When I approached tech partnership, a lot of it was around marketing back then. And Monday is a company that does marketing that brings sales and leads. Saw this as something that was, well, we are not sure that that's effective. So we actually search for companies that will move the needle and will be fitting for the Monday model and will provide Monday something that we lack and enable us to grow as the way we wanted to grow. And that was a very interesting pursuit within Monday.
Wow. I love it. And was that very different to what you had seen in other companies beforehand?
So it was different. I think it was different because it's a very personal thing, but it's when I came to Monday, I was looking how do I bring my knowledge to Monday and not how do I educate Monday on how to do stuff. And this is, I think, what I tried to do in most of my career, but it was very obvious for me at Monday. It was a great challenge to have. So when, for example, one of the greatest success that we had at Monday, and I mean the team, it was not just myself. I had a team of people that work with me. But one of the things that the cloud providers, so AWS, which Monday run on AWS, really wanted to partner with Monday. They have a partnership program. There's someone in AWS that has a KPI to partner with all the great companies or the best companies to keep them close so they won't move to the competitor. So this is the way they do it. They say, well, you know what? Sign up to the marketplace. Let's create joint marketing efforts. And all the cloud providers have that. And I just saw this as something that would not be effective for Monday. So I was initially reluctant to do it. Then I did some, and we wrote some white papers together. Nobody looked at them. And then I said, listen, if we want to do something effective, is to bring bring new customers to Monday, or to create or go up market and go and create bigger deals. And it was very challenging. For a year, we couldn't get with our partnership manager anywhere with this. And at the end of the day, it's something that we pursue. We managed to get to someone I managed to get to someone very senior at AWS. He was reporting to the CEO. And he accepted the Zoom through a friend, regardless of the local office. And he accepted the Zoom. And I said, I pitched him. I thought a lot about, you just spoke about how you get ready when you meet investors. Mm-hmm. So I got ready and I said, okay, what do I pitch him? I said, well, AWS, unlike the other cloud providers, you guys don't talk to business people. Google does. They have, the Google suite. They have Looker and others. Microsoft, of course, they have the whole stack. But you guys are selling just to developers. And this is while you were making great progress. But you're not talking to business people or providing any business application. The ones that you have, nobody wants to touch, like Chime and others. Mm-hmm. I could be your solution. Me, Monday. I'll get you to talk to the business people. I get you to business conversation with the CIO, not technical conversations. It took a few months, and it took a few years, but I met someone from Monday, and I met someone from AWS, and there is someone in AWS he's a senior director or VP that he is in charge of business apps today. There are directors in every region, and they have a program for business apps.
Boom.
And Monday, through the AWS Marketplace, sells a lot of software. So I think that, this is kind of, okay, how do you create a win-win?
Yeah.
And the reason that I started with this example is that on the edge of it, which is very important, is the incentive to the AWS salespeople
Oh,
to sell Monday, because there are a lot of applications on on the AWS marketplace.
absolutely.
So you need to make sure that the incentive is there from the top to the bottom to get you to where you want to be.
Right. Oh, it's really interesting. A lot of companies, that is what their struggle is, finding with the larger cloud providers the incentive or to make their reps on their side also ignite in the relationship as they want them to.
Well, I had it easy. Yeah, I was at Monday, so it was a sizable company. Again, not a big
Yeah.
company at any. And Monday is not is. It's a big company, but if you take the number of users of Monday compared to the potential, it's still in the early stages. I'm like, who's joined? The people who joined Monday now are really in the beginning of Monday still. So it's
It's a good sign. So those who are still looking to join, it's not too late.
exactly.
Amazing. And the other companies you've been involved with, like Verbit, or even maybe more recently, Bria, they're also very partnership driven. They believe in the ecosystem, be it through the technical platform integrations that they're building out and also the channels, some of them. I mean, I've met both of their teams, are fantastic. And is that something that was coming from their board, from their investors? Is it something they've just worked out themselves, do you think?
No, I think that founders find it themselves, right? There is a limit to the number of salespeople that you can have. There is a limit to the scale you can have as a startup. Partnership provide a hack to that scale if they're done correctly. Otherwise, they're just wasting a lot of time and effort from both sides. So, I'll take example Bria. So Bria is selling, for people who don't know, they develop foundation models for imaging, which are legal. They have, based on a patent, they have few patents. They have when a image is edited or generated, they pay royalties back to the original copyrights owners of the data that was used to train that model, and they sell to big companies like a lot of big companies. I don't know which one we are allowed to say, so I'm not going to say. But the idea is, and it's very similar to the idea to my days in Nuance. So it's really remind me actually of Nuance and not Verbit, which also sold technology. So the idea is, okay, you've got this great technology. Who can enjoy it and enhance it and bring it to market? And you need to find those, and it's a win-win. It's a more salesy like win-win or producty than the one in Monday that I just described, but it's a very powerful one, right? So if you are an ad agency and you want to provide a tool to your customers to create ads very quickly, then you can use Bria, and it's legal, so you're not compromising that. If when I was in Nuance, I went to Waze, I remember. I know I'm from Waze. It was a small startup. They said, I remember, I don't know how many users they had, but they said that we might have 10 million users by the end of the year. And they didn't have text to speech. So they didn't have a way to tell you which street to go left in. They say, go left. And the TomTom governments of the world had it embedded. So I took a technology that was used in a call center, kind of morphed it to be a server side for them, and provided that enhancement to them. So you can think of it as a sales, but it was a partnership. We took the technology. This is how we sell. We took it to their part, to them, and they sold it on. Verint and I sold speech as analytics. It created a new product for them. So it's kind of finding the win-win when you sell technology. These two companies are in that, I think, category. Monday and Verbit is a lot of the partnership around channel, and that's a different story. That's how do you get to a bigger market.
I'm going to touch on that point. I was actually at an event early this morning, and I wanted to approach a CEO of a very well-funded young startup building very interesting AI things. And I'm like waiting kind of for my move for when I go and say hi. And the person before me was pitching what he's building. And he said, I wanted to speak to you because I think we could maybe work together on something. My company does da-da-da-da-da. I was listening. and you're doing what you're doing. Does it sound interesting? And I'm watching this guy who I was there to try and speak to, and he was like, sounds really interesting. Would love to have a conversation about it. And for me, that was like a ka-ching. That's the moment. You're being open to it. There's like a humility that I think it also takes when approached to work together with someone or something. He didn't say, nah, what do we need you? We just got fresh funding. That's why we're the ones on the talk here. So again, I think that mindset is something that's really interesting. When it comes to channel, though, it means that you need to get on board your salespeople. So if you've got a CRO at a new startup, he's all excited about the new tag, he's spending money like sales leaders do in order to, of course, drive revenue. Comes along now the new hire, boom, a channel person. Leadership have decided that we're going to start investing in channel too. Friction. I'm seeing this play out in so many different companies. From the get-go, there's some kind of resistance between the teams and competitiveness between them because it's who's going to get that territory, who's going to sell to that logo. And it puts the C-level, the CFO, the CRO, the CEO in a tough decision then on like, okay, who are we going to back? It's always going to be the salesperson because they're closer to the CEO. They were there beforehand. But it then means that they're waving goodbye to a lot of revenue that they're probably going to go and tap back into that motion in a year or two once that guy's left. Is this a familiar thing to you? Do you also see it happening in companies?
It is. It is familiar, and I think that it's not just familiar. It's common, right? So it's. I think you had two stories there, and I think they're both tied to the same thing. It's the KPI and the expectations. So these two founders that met each other and said, well, can we cooperate? So my question would be, what's the KPI of this cooperation? Because it's great to meet someone and say, okay, let's do something together. But you can take anything, but there is a cost of doing something, of not doing something else. So is it better to, connect with another small startup, or is it better to try and connect to Google, Microsoft, which might be more challenging, go to a channel and a territory that might be more challenging, but will be more rewarding. So the question is, what's the KPI? If the KPI is a new product, that's one thing, or enhancement of the product, and that will lead to something, then let's think how we measure it and let's test it, right? I'm all about testing and maybe eliminating, and also eliminating in early stage something that you don't think is going to provide a lot of feedback, because as a startup you have limited resources. In terms of sales versus channel, my perspective, it's the same thing. A CRO needs to manage both. It's need to roll out to the same person. It's just a different way of doing the same thing. So if you take the big companies of the world, the NICE, the Verint, the AWS, the Microsoft, and any checkpoint, most of them don't sell direct. They sell direct maybe to a selected few companies, and most of the sales go through partners. There are a lot of reasons why. Some of it is to have someone in between. So, Microsoft has this terms, and their partner signs up to the Microsoft contract, and the partners are willing to take some risk with the end user. Some of it is access to the territory. Something is knowing the language. So there are different ways why you should partner. And yes, if you partner in a channel perspective, you lose some of the revenue. So you need to make sure that the increase by using using this channel will increase the revenue, because you are giving away, let's say, 20% of the deal for the partner, or 30% of the deal, 50% of the deal, whatever. It depends what's value does the partner brings you. And this is why I think it needs to roll out to the CRO. Otherwise, you're giving lousy deals to partners. You're not supporting the partners. At the end of the day, at AWS, when someone is an account manager, he is the account manager, but the deal goes through a partner. So I think it's the same thing in the channel perspective. But you have another thing to manage, not just the customer, also the channel itself.
No,
it makes sense.
Absolutely. No, it's really interesting. Part of the journey that I've been on since we met, I decided that there was a problem in channel partnerships that I was seeing right in front of me. I was looking at reports on Salesforce, I was seeing how much money was getting left on the floor. And I was like, okay, I'm going to start a startup. We're going to fix this. After a few days, I was hitting myself against the wall. What have you done to yourself? And then I was, okay, we've really got to learn of what is going on out there. And I've spoken today to over 300 different companies, B2B, SaaS, and software companies, many of them very large enterprises. And one of the biggest things I would say as my main takeaway is complexity. Partnerships in general have been way over complex, but they are very, very, very complex as well. And that's why now, to bring on to our next subject, using AI, you can actually create a science on how do you predict if that would be a good partnership between those two guys that I met today. Can you take all of the data from their interactions beforehand? Can you see what it is that their companies do? Can you create their better together story? Can you find if there are common struggles that they have, or they're targeting the same customers, all this kind of stuff? And now that's where we're at Zugit. You asked as we were coming in, how's it going? And I said that's a really tough question to ask any entrepreneur today. We're at this stage with AI where on LinkedIn, you'll see all these posts excited about it. And if you go to talks from investors, they'll speak about how we're just at the start of it. As an entrepreneur, though, it means that you're constantly changing your product, your offerings, your services, whatever it is, as well as how you work. And before we started recording it, we were kind of comparing projects we've done in the last 24 hours ourselves on this. So I'm seeing and enjoying how AI can completely revolutionize channel partnerships. But where is it that you're most excited about, or what is it that you've been tapping into and just see has a lot of potential to grow a lot from it?
I think that the barrier of starting an application startup. So the way I have kind of a profound view of AI, but in essence, anything above the system of records layer is really easy today to automate and to create stuff. So you and I, non-coders, wrote our first code this weekend, both of us, funny enough. And I've worked with two founders that were in ideation. A lot of founders come and consult with me. And I told them, listen, I've got an idea. If you're interested in pursuing it, let's go ahead and do it. So I'm kind of, I'm consulting them on the way. They raise $150,000, which is nothing today.
Yeah.
But they got to an MVP in 3 weeks. The product is going to launch in another 3 once they settle it. And they're going to get feedback from the market. And they have almost lost none of their equity. So the way you can start a company today, in some cases where you touch the AI or you use the AI above certain layer, is really, really easy. So you can provide business value really, really fast. Is there a moat there? Could it be a huge business? That's a different question. But it's a very easy start for a company to test stuff. So this is why where I feel that it could be applied also to partnerships. But it could be, you see many SDRs today. Why? Because it's just easy.
Yeah.
You can write it one yourself. So you don't, but there are many, many solutions like that. So I think that a lot of companies will start in this way and then will go deep into the value. And there's a lot of companies that can deal with the infra of what we are starting to see today, because it's really the fact that you and I can build a website with or a business process. It's not scalable. This is not how you would like to build a company, right? So we still need people who knows how to code, and we did it from age 6 or at the army or whatever.
Absolutely. I'm finding personally that you can also very much see the difference in the talent by those who are adapting the new tools that are available, and straight away, they've tested them, they're familiar with them, they're using them, to those who haven't. So I think, like in any other thing in life right now, you have to also really be embracing the available AI tools.
I think that any company that is not using AI today would not be successful. The scale, the speed that it provides is unprecedented. So if you're not using Cursor, Windsurf, Codium, Itamar, a friend, you're going to lose. You need to use these tools. And if you're, a customer-facing team and you're not using something to help write your marketing, your emails, summarize, get prepared to meetings, you're going to lose. Your competitor is doing that. The barrier of using those tools is extremely low. So I think that any entrepreneur needs, and not just entrepreneur, any corporate needs to use that. The corporate that would not will be left behind by the ones who do.
You mentioned earlier Gong, and it reminds me again, I want to bring them back. They're one of my favorite companies. The founder was also from Sisense, where I worked previously. One of the amazing things Gong did very early on was really valuable content. So it was one of my first sales jobs. And the guy who hired me, who was also young and at the beginning, he said, look, go on this website and just read how to sell, how to pitch, how to write an email, this kind of stuff. And I remember actually like printing it out and keeping it next to me and highlighting things and using it as my playbook. Today, there's so much content online, but half the stuff that we read, we know it's kind of bullshit and someone else has written it for the people.
Mm-hmm.
Do you also believe that that's why when you're starting a company like we are now, you need to bring good, really valuable content to the space? Do you think that there's also room to continue doing that? Or do you feel like, everyone's learned everything about everything now, so just build your product and focus on the technical side of things?
So, I mean, there are two sides to it. We spoke about it when I met a few VCs a few months back. And they were like, well, nobody needs content. Nobody is interested in advice and advisors anymore. The AGI will do it all. Right? It's tied up also to, advice. My feeling is that there is something in the human connection. You and I talking. You describe our first meeting, and I think that is something that is priceless. And I think the way to get there is to have content out there, or one of the ways to get there. I think that you mentioned Gong. I think that the best company that wrote content was HubSpot, and they write tons of content. They're really, really good at that. So I think that content has a value. I think that the value of content as is diminishing because there will be more and more content.
Yeah.
But if you ask me, for example, LinkedIn posts, or messaging, or I think that will grow. So I think that, and you see that also in the way that content is generated today. Some of it is gated.
Yeah.
So people ask you in YouTube and Twitter, you can get access to gated information. And I think that will continue to be the trend. So I think that content has a lot of room, and I think personal advice has a lot of room. And AI will not replace. But that's my take.
Yeah, no, I agree with it. One of the most pivotal things I've had the last year is I wasn't yet out there trying to raise money, but there was a first offer, which was very exciting as an entrepreneur. Puts your ego up there and you feel like finally someone realizes all the work you're doing. And I went to advise with one of the top investors from a very large VC. I had a coffee with him and he said, look, nothing matters. Your gut feeling, that's what I want us to talk about. And he gave me what we would call a spiel, but a really good lesson in how you're on day 0 of your journey. What you need to invest in most is knowing how to make this decision based on what you think is right, based on your vision, based on your gut feeling. And it always reminds me, that conversation, how important it is to also get advice at the right time from the right people. Someone might give you great advice and it's great for Monday, but on Wednesday you should maybe be listening to someone else with a slightly different perspective on it. So I totally agree with you. Whilst I ask ChatGPT everything, I don't listen to it about everything. So
yeah, I have to say that about the advice that he gave you, and I will start, and I think we started our conversation the same way. I'll always start with a disclaimer. We have 30 minutes. You're going to share a lot of things. I'll give you my perspective on the limited context that you provided. You have all the context. It's your passion. My advice is not stronger or firmer or anything than your idea or your advice and what you think. So just take it and do whatever you want with it. And I think it's very important because as an entrepreneur, you can meet a lot of investors and consultants that will tell you this is what you have to do. But at the end of the day, you need to do what you have to do, and it will be challenging. And that point that he directed you to find is extremely important in those challenges.
Mm-hmm.
If you get to a point that something does not work and you said, Amit, maybe I shouldn't listen to Amit, that's a very bad point to be
Yeah.
in. If you go and do something and you say, well, I'm testing it, it didn't work out, let's try something else, I think that's a very good place to be.
Yeah, I agree. And you bring me on to the last thing that I do want to ask about a bit more, because that's perfect advice for entrepreneurs and for founders. You've probably met, have you counted how many founders you met?
Hundreds.
Hundreds, probably thousands if you consider like not as a team, but individually and whatever. So there's a couple of things I want to ask about in founders today. Whilst AI and everything changing and moving so fast is really exciting, and there's all these glorious stories about startups who got to millions of dollars within 2 days, it's not the real picture in reality for most companies. And I like to always remind people this, we are real, it's a real world here. What is the thing that you're seeing most struggling with today when you meet entrepreneurs and founders, or even the last few months that you spent at Entree? Was there something recurring that you could say, you know, if you're an entrepreneur and you're listening, watch out from that spot, because a lot of people get there?
I don't think there is a single spot. I think that we are people who are different from one another. So some will struggle to find a team.
Mm-hmm.
Some will struggle to raise funds and to have a coherent pitch. Some will struggle with the technology. Some will be in love with an idea that doesn't have any merits and any market, and they will say, well, listen, we'll build it and people will use it. So, you know, there are numerous books who were written on that. I think that the most important thing is to kind of be real with yourself and basically search for that missing gap that you have and find advice on that gap. Yeah, I think there is nothing one thing. I think that, you know, raising money is something that no one did, and then it's a necessary evil. I remember when I first became an entrepreneur, and I had to issue my first invoice. So I invoiced someone, then I made my accountant, and I said, listen, I said, this is the invoice, this is the expenses. And he's like, well, listen, you need to understand. I said, I don't need to understand. I think that no one started a company to invoice. It's a necessary evil. Nobody starts a company because he wants to raise money. It's something that is necessary, and raising money is not the goal. The goal is building a company. So I think raising money is a challenge, and keep your eyes on the ball and figure out what's you're missing and have good people around you. That's kind of
amazing. There's one last final question I'm going to ask, because thank you very much for Google for Startups. We're in the heart of Tel Aviv. There's a lot going on here. Yesterday was a very, very heavy day. We've all been through a lot of very, very heavy days. You've seen how this ecosystem has, though, continued to somehow thrive miraculously. And you've seen also individual stories throughout it. The last time we had a conversation, we had a very different ecosystem.
Yeah.
What is your message? And the reason that I don't hide this and I bring it up is because I really am so proud of it. And the people who are going to be watching this, they're from all over the world, from all different places. They don't all know what's going on here. So what is it that you like to share about it when you meet people like that?
I think there's something that is very obvious for Israelis, and it's the sense of community. And it's something that I worked with a lot of people all over the globe. And I think it's really different the way that we I think some will, but I would say care for one another, right? So it's if an Israeli meet another Israeli anywhere in the world, they have a common language. They will assist each other if they needed. The degree of separation in Israel is very close. So I think I'm very proud of what we've done with it. Although in recent years, I have to say, to be very open, that I think that we have a challenge in that respect with our political situation. But I think that October 7 brought a lot of that good out of people. So I think that people volunteered and people got really did a lot of things to step out of their comfort zone. I saw the same thing in Corona, and I didn't see this in other places in the world, right? You know, not naming other countries and other people, but I think that this is something that we have, which is very special in that regards. So I think that's a secret sauce that we have, and I wish we'll cherish it more than we do, I think.
Absolutely, I agree. Well, maybe we'll end on that note. Thank you again for being here, and thank you again for the community at Google for Startup that you've also been a mentor and that you're now coming as a podcast guest and, you know, an entrepreneur. And I think it's a great example of this. So I really learned a lot and enjoyed this discussion. Thank you very, very much.
So thank you and thank Google.
Yeah, thank you.